You're going to die, not someday far in the future when you're old and ready. You're going to die, and you don't know when. Could be 60 years from now, could be tomorrow, could be while you're reading this, and when you pass away, you will cease to exist. Your consciousness will end. Your memories will disappear. Everything you built, everyone you loved, every moment you experienced, gone permanently. Forever. And nothing you do can change this. Not belief, not achievement. But Albert Camus says you need to think about it. Not occasionally. Not when someone dies and you're forced to constantly. Because death is not just the end of your life. It's what makes your life absurd. And understanding that, really understanding that, changes everything. Most people spend their lives in what philosophers call death denial. It's not that they think they're immortal. They know intellectually that death exists, but they don't live with that knowledge. They don't feel it. They structure their lives as if they have unlimited time. They defer happiness. They postpone meaning. They wait for the right moment to really live, and they tell themselves stories that make death seem less final. It's not the end. It's a transition. It's not cessation. It's transformation. It's not annihilation. It's reunion with loved ones in another realm. These stories are comforting. They make death easier to face. But Camus says they're also lies. Not necessarily malicious lies, but lies nonetheless. And living in lies, no matter how comforting, is not living authentically. Camus is uncompromising on this. When you die, you die. There is no afterlife. There is no soul that continues. There is no cosmic consciousness you merge with. There is no reincarnation. You simply stop. Like a candle flame extinguished, and all the meanings you created, all the purposes you found, all the loves you experienced, they stopped how? Not for others. Your impact continues in their memories, in your work, in whatever you left behind. But for you, subjectively, it all ends complete darkness, complete silence, complete nothing, and you will never know what happened because there will be no you to know anything. This is what death is. And this is what almost no one wants to hear. Why don't we want to hear it? Because it makes everything feel pointless. If you're going to die, if everything you do will eventually be erased, if nothing you achieve will matter once you're gone, why bother? Why work? Why create? Why love? Why do anything except pursue immediate pleasure until the end comes? This is the nihilist response to death, and it's tempting. It's logical in a way. But Camus spent his entire philosophical career arguing against it, because the nihilist makes a mistake. They assume that if something is temporary, it has no value. If something ends, it was meaningless. If death is final, life is pointless. But that doesn't follow. In fact, Camus argues the opposite. Death is precisely what gives life urgency, intensity, meaning. Think about it differently. If you had infinite time, nothing would matter. Every moment would be replaceable. Every relationship could be deferred. Every experience could wait. Why choose anything today when you have eternity? But you don't have eternity. You have a finite number of heartbeats, a limited collection of days, a temporary consciousness that will vanish. And that limitation is what makes your choices matter. When you choose to spend time with someone, you're choosing not to spend that time doing something else. When you pursue a goal, you're investing your limited existence in that direction. When you love, you're committing your temporary consciousness to another temporary consciousness. None of this would have weight without death. Death is the condition that makes meaning possible. Camus writes that death is what makes life absurd. The absurd, remember, is the confrontation between our human need for meaning and the universe's refusal to provide it. We want our lives to matter cosmically. We want our actions to have permanent significance. We want to transcend our mortality, but we can't. We're finite beings in an indifferent universe. We're conscious of our own And that awareness, that unbridgeable gap between what we want and what we get, that's the absurd. And death is the ultimate expression of it. Because death makes absolutely clear that you are temporary, that the universe doesn't care about you, that nothing you do will change the fundamental reality of your cessation. Most religions and philosophies try to escape this. They create stories where death isn't really death. It's a doorway, a test, a transition. Your earthly life is preparation for eternal life. Your suffering now will be rewarded later. Your consciousness will continue in some form. These narratives dissolve the absurd by denying death's finality. They say, yes, you die, but you also continue. You're both mortal and immortal. And that paradox makes life bearable, makes suffering meaningful, makes death less terrifying. But Camus calls this philosophical suicide. It's choosing comforting illusion over difficult truth. It's pretending death isn't what it is because what it is too hard to accept. And here's the thing about philosophical suicide. It works. It makes people happier. Studies show religious believers report higher life satisfaction, less death anxiety, better coping with mortality. Believing you'll see your loved ones again in heaven is genuinely comforting. Believing your life is part of God's plan gives meaning to suffering. So why does Camus reject it? Why insist on the harsh truth when the comforting lie works better? When you accept that death is final, when you stop believing in cosmic safety nets, when you embrace your absolute temporariness, something shifts. You stop deferring. You stop waiting for the right moment. You stop treating life as a rehearsal for something else. Because this is it. This moment, right now, is all you have. And the next moment, and the one after that. Until there are no more moments. And that knowledge, instead of paralyzing you with despair, can liberate you, can make you urgent, can make you present, can make you alive in a way that people avoiding death never are. If you're still with me, if this confrontation with your own mortality is uncomfortable but somehow clarifying, subscribe to continue exploring the hardest truths about existence. Hit the like button if you're ready to stop pretending death is something other than what it is, because facing this is the foundation of everything else Camus teaches. This is what Camus means by revolt. Not denying death, not escaping into false hope, but accepting death fully and living passionately anyway. Living as if your life matters even though it ends. Living as if your choices have meaning even though they're temporary. Living with intensity, presence, and consciousness, despite or rather because of your That's revolt. That's the only honest response to mortality. Not hope for something after. Not denial of the end. Consider what happens when you really internalize this. When you wake up knowing you could die today, not in a paranoid way, not obsessively, but matter-of-factly as a simple truth. You could die today, and everyone you love could die today. This isn't morbid. It's realistic. People die unexpectedly all the time. Heart attacks, accidents, sudden illness. Death doesn't wait for convenient moments. It doesn't care if you're ready. It comes when it comes. And if you accept this, if you carry this awareness, it changes how you live. That argument you were going to have, maybe it's not worth it. If this is your last conversation, that grudge you were holding may be pointless if you or they might be gone tomorrow. That thing you've been putting off. Maybe you should do it now, because now is all you're guaranteed. This isn't about living in fear. It's about living with clarity. Death awareness isn't paralyzing. It's focusing. It strips away the bullshit, the petty concerns, the deferred dreams, the assumed tomorrows, and it leaves you with the essential question. What are you going to do with the time you have? Not someday, not when circumstances are perfect. Now, with this moment, this day, this life, because you don't know how many more you get. And pretending you have infinite time is just another form of death denial. Camus himself died absurdly car accident. He was 46 years old, at the height of his career, working on novels he'd never finish, planning projects he'd never complete. One moment alive, the next moment gone, and he knew this could happen. He wrote about it. He understood that death is arbitrary, that it doesn't wait for you to be ready, that it doesn't care about your plans, and he lived accordingly. He wrote urgently. He loved intensely. He engaged fully because he really knew, that every moment could be the last. And that knowledge didn't make him depressed. It made him alive. There's a concept in some Buddhist traditions called Maranasati, death awareness meditation. You contemplate your own death regularly. You imagine your body decaying. You reflect on the deaths of others. You make death familiar instead of avoiding it. The purpose isn't to become morbid. It's to become present, because when you know you're mortal, when you feel it in your bones, you stop sleepwalking through life. You stop treating today as just another day in an endless series. You recognize each day as a gift, not in some saccharine greeting card way, but as a genuine, temporary, unrepeatable opportunity to be conscious, to experience, to engage. Camus would approve of this practice, not the religious elements necessarily, but the confrontation with mortality. The refusal to look away, because looking away is what most of culture encourages. We hide death, we sanitize it, we remove it from daily life. People die in hospitals, not homes. Bodies are handled by professionals, not families. We use euphemisms, passed away, lost, gone to a better place. Anything except dead. Anything except ceased to exist. And this removal of death from life makes death seem unreal. Makes it seem like something that happens to other people. Something distant. Something you'll deal with later, but you won't deal with it later. Later is when it happens to you. And by then, it's too late to live differently. So what does living with death awareness look like practically? It means treating relationships as temporary, not in a way that makes you detached, in a way that makes you present. Your parents will die, your partner will die, your friends will die, you will die. And the time you have together is unknown. Could be decades, could be days. So what does that mean for how you treat them today? Are you harboring resentments that won't matter when one of you is gone? Are you postponing conversations you need to have? Are you taking for granted that there will be time later to say what needs to be said? Because there might not be. It means treating your work as temporary. Everything you create will eventually disappear. Your art, your writing, your business, your accomplishments. Maybe it takes decades, maybe centuries. But eventually the sun will consume the earth and nothing humans ever did will remain. Does that make your work meaningless? Only if you think meaning requires permanence. But it doesn't. Meaning exists in the doing, in the engagement, in the act of creation itself, not in eternal preservation. You create because creating is what you do while you're alive, not because what you create will last forever. It means treating experiences as temporary. Every meal you eat is one of a finite number. Every sunrise you see, you'll never see again. Every moment with someone you love is unrepeatable. This doesn't mean you should be constantly nostalgic or melancholic. It means you should be present, actually tasting the food, actually watching the sunrise, actually being with the person instead of thinking about something else. Because this moment is all you have, and it's disappearing even as you experience it. And someday there will be no more moments. So be in this one fully, completely, without reservation. This is what Camus means when he talks about living in quantity rather than quality. He doesn't mean mindless accumulation of experiences. He means being present for as many moments as possible, not waiting for special occasions, not saving yourself for important events, but treating every moment as worthy of your full attention because every moment is part of your temporary, irreplaceable existence. Quality thinking says, I'll really live when circumstances are perfect. Quantity thinking says, I'm living now with what I have because now is all I'm guaranteed. Death also changes how you relate to suffering. If you believe in afterlife, suffering can be redeemed. It's temporary pain leading to eternal reward. It's a test, a purification, a necessary stage. But if death is final, suffering is just suffering. It's not leading anywhere. It's not for anything. It's just part of your temporary existence. And that makes it more urgent to reduce not just your own suffering, everyone's, because this life is all anyone gets. And if someone spends their entire life suffering, there's no compensation after their suffering was their life. And it's over. Forever. This creates a moral urgency, an imperative to fight suffering, to create justice, to make life better for everyone, not because of cosmic rewards, but because this is all there is. And death changes how you relate to meaning. If life has inherent meaning, if there's a cosmic plan, you just need to discover it. Your job is to find what you're meant to do. But if death is final, if there's no plan, meaning becomes your responsibility, you create it, not discover it. And that's both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because there's no guarantee you'll choose correctly. No assurance that your life will have been meaningful when you die. But liberating because you're not bound by any external mandate. You decide what matters. You determine what gives your temporary existence significance. And no one, living or dead, can tell you you're wrong. Camus died in that car accident with an unused train ticket in his pocket. He could have taken the train, but he chose the car, and that choice killed him absurd. Arbitrary, meaningless, in any cosmic sense. But that's how death works. It doesn't wait for narrative completion. It doesn't care about your unfinished business. It comes when it comes. And the meaning of your life isn't determined by when or how you die. It's determined by how you lived every day, every choice, every moment you were conscious and present and engaged. That's where meaning existed. Not in some final summation, not in how the story ends, but in the living itself. So here's what nobody wants you to know about death. It's final, it's arbitrary. It renders everything temporary. And there's no escape through belief or hope or denial. But that's not the end of the story, because death, properly understood, doesn't diminish life. It intensifies it. It makes every moment matter precisely because moments are limited. It makes every choice significant precisely because you can't undo them after you're gone. It makes presence urgent precisely because absence is permanent. Death is not the enemy of meaning. Death is the condition that makes meaning possible. And accepting that, really accepting that, frees you to live in a way that people avoiding death never can. What would you do differently if you accepted that death is final? If you stopped waiting for perfect circumstances? If you stopped deferring what matters? If you stopped pretending you have infinite time because you don't, you have this moment and the next and however many more you get until you don't get any more. And what you do with those moments, how you live them, that's your life. That's all your life can be. Not the destination, not the ending, not what comes after. Just the moments. Temporary, finite, unrepeatable moments. And the choice always is whether to live them fully or to waste them waiting for something that will never come. Death is the truth everyone avoids and the reality everyone faces. And Camus says, face it now. Not when you're forced to. Not when someone dies and you temporarily remember your mortality. Now, today, every day, live with death. Not in fear, not in despair, but in clear-eyed acceptance that this is temporary and therefore precious. That's the hard truth. Nobody wants you to know. But it's also the liberating truth that can set you free. Welcome to mortality. Welcome to the only life you'll ever have. Welcome to Camus Speaks.